If anyone told me that Dr. Tony, a whole fine man, educated, well-to-do Lagos doctor, will come to our village and fall in love with Ijeoma, I would have laughed till I rolled on the ground. Because how? How can someone willingly put his head into suffering? How can a man with all the working sense choose to love Ijeoma of all people? Let me explain. Ijeoma was the girl everybody avoided in Umuokoro village. Not because she was wicked or ugly. No, she was actually fine, with smooth dark skin, good height, and big bright eyes that made her look innocent. The problem was her body odor. A strong, unforgiving smell that followed her everywhere like an ancestral curse. It didn't matter how much she bathed or the type of soap she used, the smell would cling to her skin like a second body. If she entered a room, people would slowly start to disappear, one by one. If she come near someone, they would shift small, pretending they wanted to adjust their sitting position. But we all knew the truth. And the worst part, she didn't smell it. Ijeoma walked around, smiling and talking, unaware that her body odor could make a grown man's eyes water. Some people said it was spiritual, that maybe she had offended a river goddess or stepped on a cursed land. Others swore that it was a sickness, something her mother would have taken her to the city for when she was still a child. But whatever it was, one thing was clear: nobody wanted to be around Ijeoma. And then Dr. Tony came. Umuokoro had never seen a doctor like him. The ones that came before were either old, or tired, or young and looking for a way to run back to the city. But Dr. Tony was different. He was fresh, with caramel skin, a fine beard, and a smile that could make a widow forget her late husband. He had come as part of the government program to help run rural areas, and from the moment he stepped into the village, women started developing fake sicknesses. "Doctor, my chest is paining me," one woman would say, rubbing her chest in a slow circle. "Doctor, I think I have malaria." Another one would claim, even though she was standing strong like an Iroko tree. Dr. Tony, being the professional that he was, would just smile and give them paracetamol. But me, I knew their game. They wanted to trap the fine Lagos doctor and drag him into marriage. But of all the women in the village, it was Ijeoma he noticed. At first, people thought it was a mistake. Maybe he was just being nice. But then, he started spending time with her, walking with her, sitting with her under the mango tree, even laughing at her jokes. That was when we knew something was very wrong. At first, we tried to warn him. "Doctor, are you sure you are okay?" The village chief asked him one day when he saw them together. "Yes, why do you ask?" Dr. Tony responded, smiling. The chief coughed. Nothing, no, nothing. I am just checking." Another time, Mama Uche, the market woman, pulled him aside. "My son, you are new in this village, so let me tell you," she started. "Tell me what?" She hesitated, then sighed. "Nothing. Just be careful, just be careful." But no matter how many hints people gave him, Dr. Tony didn't seem to understand. He kept spending time with Ijeoma, talking to her, even standing very close to her, something that had never happened before. That was when people started whispering, "Does he not have a nose? Maybe he's under a spell, or maybe he just has a strong heart." It wasn't until Nnamdi, the village troublemaker, decided to be bold that we all found out the truth. One evening, while Dr. Tony and Ijeoma were sitting outside the health center, Nnamdi walked up to them and took a deep breath on purpose. "Ah, fresh air," he said dramatically. Dr. Tony looked up confused. "What do you mean by that?" Nnamdi grinned. "Doctor, you are sitting beside Ijeoma now. Don't you smell anything?" Dr. Tony frowned. "Smell what?" At that moment, the whole village went silent. Even the birds in the trees stopped making noise. Nnamdi's eyes widened. "Wait, you mean you can't smell anything?" Dr. Tony shook his head, looking genuinely confused. "No, I have a weak sense of smell. I hardly perceive odors unless they are very strong." "Why?" It was in that moment that the entire village realized the truth. Dr. Tony had fallen in love with Ijeoma because he couldn't smell her. The news spread like wildfire. Some people laughed till their stomach pained. Others saw it as a proof that the universe has a sense of humor. But for the first time in her life, Ijeoma had hope. If he didn't smell it, maybe there is a way to fix it, she said one day, and just like that, the search for a cure began. Ijeoma had never felt this kind of joy before. For the first time in her life, someone looked like her as a human being, not with pity, not with disgust, not with that small frown people always made when they caught her scent. Dr. Tony treated her like she was normal, and for the first time, she wanted to hold him tight and never let go. But deep down, she knew the truth. He didn't love her because he accepted her smell. He loved her because he couldn't perceive it. And that meant one thing. If there was a way to fix her, she had to find it. From the moment people found out about Dr. Tony's nose situation, Umuokoro village exploded with talk. You see how God works. One woman said in the market, she don't suffer for years. And God just brought that one man that can't perceive nonsense. Or maybe it's not God, another woman said, lowering her voice. Maybe she went to one dibia to close his nose, you know now. I beg, leave matter. You think if Ijeoma knew jazz, she would have suffered for this long? I beg you. While the village argued, Ijeoma and Dr. Tony started their plan. You mean to tell me that you have never gone for medical tests for this thing? Dr. Tony asked her one evening. Ijeoma shook her head. My mother tried. She took me to one small hospital when I was younger, but they said nothing was wrong with me. Dr. Tony frowned. That's nonsense. There's always a reason, we just have not found it. And that was how, for the first time in her life, Ijeoma prepared to leave the village. Dr. Tony made all arrangements. The villagers also gathered money to support her. Even the chief, who had never cared about anybody, gave her 5,000 naira. Go and come back a new woman, he said, patting her shoulder like a father sending his daughter to school. And so, with a small bag and a heart full of hope, Ijeoma left Umuokoro and traveled to the city. Lagos was loud, crowded, smelly, but for the first time in her life, Ijeoma was not the worst smelling person in this area. She and Dr. Tony went to a private hospital where his friend, Dr. Femi, worked. From the moment Dr. Femi saw her, he knew something was wrong. We need to run some tests, he said. Serious-faced, this could be a case of a rare condition called fish odor syndrome. Fish what? Ijeoma asked confused. Fish odor syndrome, Dr. Tony explained. It's when your body can't break down certain compounds, so you end up smelling like rotten fish or something worse. Ijeoma's eyes widened. So there's a cure? Dr. Femi sighed. Not exactly a cure, but there is always a way to manage it. Diet changes, certain supplements, good hygiene. It won't go away completely, but it can improve. For the first time in forever, Ijeoma saw light at the end of the tunnel. She had spent years believing she was cursed, that maybe she had stepped on some evil land, that maybe she was meant to suffer forever. But now she knew it was science, it was medical, and it could be controlled. Ijeoma stayed in Lagos for weeks, following the treatment plan. She stopped eating certain food, took special medicine, and bathed with antibacterial soaps every day. Slowly but surely, the change started. The scent reduced. It wasn't completely gone, but it was no longer as strong as enough to clear a whole room. And then came the final test, going back to the village. When she arrived, she was shaking with anxiety. She knew how people were. If they still ran away from her, then everything had been for nothing. She stepped down from the bus and walked into the village square, her heart pounding. Mama Uche was the first to notice her. Ijeoma, she called. Ijeoma held her breath. Mama Uche walked up to her. Come close. And nothing happened. She didn't shift. She didn't frown. She just smiled. My daughter, you are back. You are even looking fresh. That was when Ijeoma knew. It worked. Dr. Tony arrived a few days later, and the whole village gathered for a feast. Not only did they celebrate Ijeoma's transformation, but they also celebrated the doctor who made it happen. So does this mean wedding bells? Nnamdi asked, winking at Dr. Tony. Dr. Tony smiled and turned to Ijeoma. What do you think? For the first time in a long time, Ijeoma felt normal. She felt loved. She felt free. And with a shy smile, she gave the answer everyone had been waiting for. A yes. Hey besties! We have come to the end of this amazing, interesting story. If you enjoyed, don't forget to like, subscribe, and click on the notification bell so you will never miss on whenever I post a new story. Till I come your way next time. Bye!